Hello world, this is Shruti Pandey, and today I have with me Paul Harris, who is an experienced solution engineer and a PSC or a pre-sales collective ambassador. Hi Paul, thank you so much for giving me your time. How have you been?
Hi Shruti, I'm great, thank you. It's a lovely sunny day where I am, so that's it's great to talk to you, and I'm really excited to get into this. And this is my first podcast interview, so there we go. It's an exciting day for me.
I'm so happy that I happen to be your first podcast, and I'm pretty sure this is just the beginning of it. And if you could do me a favor, just don't forget me, okay? Like you
Of course, no.
try to remember.
Always remember where you started.
Try to remember me when you become, the bigger and better and like an icon kind of a thing, and you'll be like, oh, who's Shruti? So don't do that with me, okay?
As long as he's the same for me. If you just remember, oh, hey, Paul was really great. He was on the early days of the podcast when you're out and you're on your world tour when you're on stage. And just remember just to pop by, and I'll just come in and see how it's going. You'll be interviewing people far more famous than me, I'm sure. So
just don't forget me, okay? When you go big. But this is amazing, and like we were talking before recording and starting the podcast, I seriously feel like I found a friend in you. But keeping all the friendship and camaraderie and the community stuff aside that we have in common, can I start asking the 3 questions that I've prepared for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So my first question for you is, I researched your profile. So that's what I do when I call anybody to interview. I look up their profile, and I found a very interesting thing with you. You have a master's degree in arts. So I want to understand how easy or difficult the pre-sales world is or was for you, coming from
Sure,
arts.
yeah, of course. So I think it was what I would say. So I'll start with the easy bit, right? The thing that I would say is transferable skills. So my degree in the arts, my master in the arts, was actually in English literature primarily. So hence lots of books behind me. This isn't a fake background. This is my real office. That's about a third of them. So that's kind of why, and I pursued that because primarily I had a passion for it. But also because it has those kind of skills, because a really key part of that is communication. So it's standing up in front of people, it's presenting, it's talking about often quite complex, quite detailed ideas to quite a broad audience, doing so in a way that's concise, that's clear, that gets your argument across, because you're always making an argument in it. And I think to that extent, I found that sort of pre-sales is where I really thrived and what I really enjoy. Right? There's nothing that I enjoy more than getting up in front of people, engaging, having conversations. And I think that's where that kind of arts degree, that arts background, has really benefited me. The bit that I think was harder, okay, is I'm not naturally technical. I don't come from a technical background. I've always had to learn how to be technical. But in some ways, though, when people asked me this question before, and they're like, oh, but you didn't do computer science, you didn't do this. And I'm like, yeah, but when you join a new company, you have to learn the product. You don't know, unless you're going somewhere and you've been a customer of that product and you've used it, you have to learn it. So I think, yes, there are some more maybe fundamental technical things that I had to get my head around when I first started working in pre-sales. Actually, what I like about this, not the reason that I started in pre-sales, is because it maybe aligns more to my skill set than being an implementation, which I was in before, which does, I think, you need to have a more technical mindset and a technical background, not as a background necessarily, but you need to be able to get to that kind of level deeper. And my good friend Pablo Martin says, pre-sales, we're building the Hollywood set, and that's what you do when you do the arts, right? You're building a set, you're making it lovely, you haven't got to worry about what goes behind. So that's kind of how I found it. So it's, I think in summary, I found certain parts of it really easy. It has just been a natural kind of transition. But the bit that has been that challenge has been that kind of the technical piece, the learning that but it's all stuff that you can learn. It's not stuff that's beyond most people, I would say. Everyone can learn to do this stuff.
Yeah. I apologize for asking you that honest a question.
No.
To give you a benefit of doubt about me, like I think most things on this planet are art, like in some way or the other. Like even for the pre-sales or the solution stuff that we do, I think of it in my head like an orchestra, the different people playing different stuff. And if everybody is, if not in tune, but at least having some rapport between each other, then it sounds like a good one. Otherwise, it's just too much of a chaos. So I think having an arts background really does help you. And I also feel that pre-sales or solutions is one such field which can be explored by many individuals like us. Like we can have different backgrounds and still be amazing at this, which is the best part about it. So
absolutely, yeah. It's I don't pretend to say that pre-sales is easy. Pre-sales is hard.
Yeah,
it is a hard job. But
yes.
It's also why I think it's so rewarding, and why when you talk to anyone who does it, they go, "Yeah, I wouldn't want to do anything else." It's that, and but again, I think a lot of being doing the arts sort of side of it, a lot of it is about going and learning stuff for yourself. You kind of have somebody so in a week, I would have maybe 8 hours contact time with my tutors. The rest of my week, I would have to be doing stuff for myself. I'd have to be finding out information myself. It's a lot like being in pre-sales. No one has all the answers. You're going to get a little bit of information, and then you're going to figure out the rest. So no, it's absolutely, and I think, I agree 100%. It's no career that anyone who has a desire to do it can do it. And I think that's, for me, is what's so exciting about the explosion in pre-sales in the last couple of years, is seeing people from such diverse backgrounds coming into it. I think absolutely agree.
So moving on to my second question, which is, how does having a community for pre-sales actually help us?
Very short answer to that is it makes me realize that I'm not alone, is the answer, to be honest. So, and I can expand on that, but I think that's the key. So, I think being in pre-sales can be quite a lonely job sometimes, right? And I think even before the pandemic, I worked from home primarily, or I'd be on the road and I would see people very occasionally. And when you're, particularly as I did, and as many people do, when you kind of fall into pre-sales in an organization, you don't have any idea of really what the job is. All you know about it is what you know in that organization, what someone tells you pre-sales should be. Having that community, talking to the pre-sales people, engaging with them, finding out and going, hey, you know what, I'm not the only person who has these pains. And I think there's that kind of natural, immediately when I get in a room with other pre-sales people, I know that I can, first of all, I don't have to tell them what my job is or try and explain it. That's a really big thing, right? And that's not going to give you actively. So what is it? And actually, a friend of mine, he tried to explain it. He was trying to explain it to somebody else, and I was like, no, that's not what you've got. I think the only bit he got right was that I don't do implementation. And I was like, yeah, that's true. The rest of it, like, you've gotten way off. But I think it's having that. I think I've found that, because everybody is coming from that same place, because everybody shares those pains, I immediately feel closer to everyone, and I feel comfortable, and I feel like, no one's going to sit here and judge me or go, oh, what's that? They're like, it's just a really open, a really honest place to be. And it also, fundamentally, and I've found this, I've made some great friends through it as well, right? I think I've met, and I think it's people who I never thought, people that you never think you'd meet. And again, when you're out doing the job, you're not meeting lots and lots of people every day that you're going to work with. And I think, again, that's the difference. It can be quite kind of isolating, because you're sort of turning up, you're doing your thing and you're leaving. but actually having that community as a chance to offload, but also just to kind of meet people and find out new places. And also, you know what, you'll often find opportunities, because I think at the London event we had a few weeks ago, we had something like 15 or 20 hiring managers there who had open positions in pre-sales. So being in that community also means it gives you a chance to go, hey, you know what, there's so much opportunity out here, and it's about, it really for me opened my eyes to what pre-sales can be. And it's not just about this kind of, maybe sometimes what can feel quite a narrow definition of the role, but actually there's being a sales engineer, there's being a value engineer, there's being a technical architect, there's being a solution architect. There's all these other kind of different roles and functions that are still in pre-sales, but that can allow people to, and kind of back to what we were saying before, right? Any background can do this, and you'll find in that community, you'll probably find somebody who's either doing the job that you were like, hey, I bet that job doesn't exist, but then you'll meet someone who does, or you'll find someone who's hiring for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So that is, yeah.
This is such a candid answer, because I sometimes get envious when I see, the fellow TSC members or James posting up a meetup photos or it's on LinkedIn. I'm like, okay, I want one of this happening where I live, right? We need to have some of these, and it's super incredibly helpful, right? All these kind of events and what the community is doing for all of us. And I'm so happy that I got to meet you because of this. And special thanks and shout out to James for actually enabling this conversation in a way or so. And if I can, I mean, I don't know what to say. The moment you said, like, how do I explain the job that I do? When I started Solutions 3 years back, nobody in India had idea what a solutions engineering is. Probably not even the company that was hiring me. I hope they don't see this. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Even they didn't. They were like, oh, you're going to be like one of the ones, Shruti, and figuring it out. And I ended up writing a Medium post or article, because everybody would be like, what does a solutions engineer do? And they start to look up as like, we are the salesy people, right? We have like no brains, we can't solve a problem, and like, what are they doing in sales, and why is a technical person now in sales? So I wrote up something on LinkedIn, and I'm going to share it with you, and please do give me your honest feedback about it. I remember sharing it in the Slack group, which was maybe about 2 years ago, but I'm going to share it with you, and let's see how this goes. And now, okay, I've suddenly made this like a one-to-one conversation between you and I. And coming back to the podcast, my last question for you is something like a kind of a problem that I'm seeing these days, which I don't like. So the thing is, if we as a pre-sales person are making a job switch, so we might be moving sometime from one industry to another. At that time, a recruiter may want to take advantage of that fact, and they would be like, okay, why don't you take a lesser title, or maybe, a little hit at the paycheck or something like that, because you're switching your industry. So you're still a pre-sales person, but you're still switching your industry. Does that happen with you, or do you know about it, and how can we tackle this situation?
So it has, it has happened to me. I have had that experience. I think everybody has at some point, and some of that, and I've actually kind of had, and not just in pre-sales, I've been offered sales positions, and they're like, oh, we think you'd be really great in sales, but obviously you'd have to take this kind of pay cut, or you're not really going to get anything for it, and you're kind of going to start here. And just on the one hand, to play devil's advocate just for a minute, and I'll come back, I understand why that maybe is the approach. So I think it's going to be, if I'm a hiring manager in particular, if I have two candidates, one of whom is from my industry, who knows it really, really well, and one of them who is, I guess I call them raw, you call them raw talent, right? Somebody who is in pre-sales, like you and I, who's experienced, who's very successful, but doesn't have the kind of industry knowledge. You can see why the person with industry knowledge is more attractive, because they're probably going to need maybe a little bit less onboarding, a little bit more, a little less guidance. They can kind of hit the ground running. So, and I think also that's kind of something where you see. Now, one way to look at it, though, so that's kind of one side. So I have some sympathy for why hiring managers, maybe less so recruiters, but hiring managers. I think there's also a lot of recruiters who I think, and who I've worked with, and shout out to those of you who, if you're maybe watching this, I think there are some fantastic recruiters in this space who do look at pre-sales and go, right, you're somebody with that raw talent. We think you'd be a great fit here. Here's why. And actually, to quote a hiring manager that I have spoken to in the past, you know, when I was going through the process, and you know, we got to the salary conversation, and the person I spoke to said, no way, we're not going to pay that. Now, he said, the hiring manager said, he said that I don't want money or title to impede getting the right people in. So I think then that side, again, not to kind of go, there's always that conversation. I think people are always going to start at lower down or lower title. Doesn't mean that you won't get what you're after. But when you sent me this question, I was like, that's interesting, because it is a problem, but I think it's a problem everywhere, right? It's not something that's unique, I think, to pre-sales. I think everywhere you get it, unless you're working in a role that is, you know, if you're a lawyer or an accountant or something, or you know, something that's really like traditionally defined, or you're working in, certainly in the UK, in the public sector, where they have very public bandings of what you'll pay, and you work with the pay grades, it's going to be a challenge. But perhaps in the way I was like, oh, how can I? So maybe the way to look at it, though, is to go, right, I'm in pre-sales, and that's the profession that I'm in. If I'm looking to make an industry switch, I'm making a career change.
Yeah.
I'm still doing the same thing, but why am I changing careers? What am I going to do? You know, I might be switching, I don't know, from working in supply chain to cybersecurity. Just take some examples, right? So there's going to be transferable skills, being in pre-sales, transferable skills, but I'm not going to know as much. Now, being in that position, but what that might be is I'm not going to know as much, but actually there's a lot of opportunity that comes forward. So I think the thing, if you find yourself in that situation, I think the thing you have to think about is look at the big picture. Think about why it is you're looking to move industry. If you're just looking to move from like one part of your industry to like another part of the industry, and someone does that, I would question it. I think that's a little bit like you kind of, but it's kind of going, why is it that what is it? If you're looking at it and going, "It's not for me," then it's not for you, and that's fine. And I think you know, we shouldn't have to, but I would say maybe think about it a little bit. Like, think about, if you look at it from the perspective of, well, actually, I'm changing careers, and if you're changing careers, you might be maybe more open to taking either a small salary hit, or maybe not taking a pay rise, maybe just sidestepping. But I would be hesitant to look at that as always a negative thing. I think it's about looking at, that's one aspect of it. Of course, that's important, but you should also look at what's around that. Try and summarize that answer, because I realize that's a very long-winded way of answering it. I think it is a problem when you feel like you're not being given what you feel is fair market value. If you look at it going, I think that I deserve more, then more power to you. Okay, if that's your view, if that's how you feel, then you should come at it with that view. But what I would encourage people to do, if you're getting tapped by a recruiter or by a hiring, you know, whether that's an external or internal recruiter, if they've come to you and said, Shruti, I think you'd be a great fit for this company over here. Now, in order to get you in, you know, you might be a manager at the moment or director. You're going to have to come in as an individual contributor, and that's, you know, we probably won't necessarily be able to meet what your current salary is, but actually this is a really big industry, and you might be looking at that going, hey, you know what, that's a really great opportunity for me to go and move into an industry, develop my skills, and if I go and do that, within a couple of years' time, I'll be back where I was, or probably even more, but hey, I'll actually work in a different industry that I want to work in. So it's kind of looking at that, looking at it holistically, and looking at the big picture, looking at the whole picture, looking at everything around it, and then making a decision based on that as to whether it's the right thing or not for you to do.
I mean, it's really a tricky question that I asked you, and the thing is, it's a very difficult situation for both the employer and the employee, because they both are taking a risk, right? And if throughout the evaluation process they understand something about each other, then might as well it would make sense to take that hit or miss or raise or whatever that might be. But it would, I think, vary from situation to situation also, based on what kind of skill set a person might have, what kind of industry that switch is rapidly going to be. But this makes sense. So these were the three questions I had for you, Paul. And would you have any wrapping up thoughts or parting thoughts that we may have for this podcast?
Yeah, sure. So I think the final thing I'll say on that last question, I guess, like a final sort of closing thought, and then I'll come on to the shameless self-promotion bit. Okay. Is if you find that you're only getting tapped for those, then maybe have a look at how you're presenting yourself, like out to the world, and don't take offense at someone coming to you and going, because I'm a firm believer that there is so much value in always having a conversation and in understanding from somebody why it is they've approached you. Exactly. And why it is they're interested in talking to you specifically, because there'll be a reason. Exactly. And it might be they go, oh, I think your experience really aligns, or they might have been referred, or it could be anything, but just taking that 20 minutes to understand that, that's going to help. And then also the feedback you get from that will be will help you inform as to how you then maybe think about how you're putting yourself out there. I guess the closing thought. Closing thought on the podcast, I guess. First of all, thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure. I've loved it. And it's set the bar very high, the podcast interview. So there we go. So that's something, a warning out there. If anyone, people might go, God, you're a terrible guest. But if anyone does want to, then Shruti set a very high bar. And thank you for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure. I know this is going to go out soon, so I will say is I'm on LinkedIn, so please connect with me. I always love to make new connections. I'm also presenting at Demo Fest in a couple of weeks. It's on the 19th of May. It's 6 p.m. UK time, 12 Central. It's very late for you, so please don't feel like joining, but there will be a recording. And the title of my presentation is The Demo Is Not Enough, Essential New Pre-Sale Skills. I'm really excited about it. I'm really looking forward to it. Hopefully it's going to be something a little bit different, and I'd love to have as many people there as possible. Head over to my LinkedIn, sign up link there, or you can do so through the Consensus website. But that was kind of the only thing I guess I have to plug right now. But again, and just one final thank you, Shruti. It's been, and again, absolutely a shout out to James and the Presales Collective for everything they do. We couldn't go without that, because I think that's if you're in pre-sales and you're not involved in that community, you're really missing out. Because it's a great place to be.
I've lost the count of people I've directed to the community, because it's that good, and I hope people benefit and make the use of the knowledge that's put up in the community. And thank you so much for this candid and honest podcast with me, Paul. It means a lot. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Shruti.
Thank you.